Hey, I'm Tom, and I just saw that movie Weapons with the kids and the old lady that does the thing, and it reminded me of a storyline very memorable from the last 30 years or so, from my childhood, really. Look at the demos that I get for viewership on this channel, and I am stunned. I'm stunned to find out that not all of you are also weird aging millennials like me. There's some young folks who don't know things about some of the things I'm talking about. Today, I'd like to educate you about one of the weirder storylines from World Championship Wrestling's past. Some refer to it as Lost in Cleveland. I'm just going to go ahead and say it's the infamous Cactus Jack Vader feud of 1993. Cactus Jack had been a bad, mean, ugly heel for years at this point when this had all gone down. And he was one of those heels that nobody really ever thought, man, he could be a babyface someday. Turns out we were all stupid. I mean adults. I was like six or seven. I wasn't stupid. I didn't know what was going on. I wasn't reading the Observer. January 93, there's a big Thunderdome cage match, which is like a cage match, but with more people in it, and the cage looks kind of weird. Nothing like too special. Nobody gets blown up, but they were needing a member for the heel team, and Harley Race was like, Cactus Jack and Paul Orndorff, you two fight over it. And they pulled a big swerveroony on old Cactus. They beat him up real good, and he becomes a good guy because everyone's like, that's not fair. You guys screwed over old Cactus just because he wears flannel. That's not nice. So Cactus, he wrestles Paul Orndorff some, and they have that match at Super Brawl where he does the bump over the guardrail, the gift that everybody's seen. But he conquers Paul Orndorff, and then he's like, Harley Race, I'm coming after your main guy, Vader. Vader, world champion, 450 pounds. Time, Vader time, whatever. Vader and Cactus Jack go at it on a Saturday night, center stage in Atlanta. And wouldn't you know, Cactus Jack gets the non-title win by countout. And that makes Vader mad, because nobody beats Vader. Vader's a monster. He's a big mean guy. And he's like, hey, I want a rematch. And Jack's like, sure. Maybe, I beat you, gonna get a world title shot, whatever, cool. So they have this second match, and it's one of the most viscerally violent and brutal matches to ever air on American wrestling television. I don't believe they even used any weapons or anything. It's just Vader punching Mick in the head over and over again, for real, punching him in the head and dropping him on concrete. They took the pads off. He drops him in the concrete. And it's something. It was so brutal that they had to edit stuff out to get it on TV. Mick goes away for a while. This was middle of April, towards the end of April, so about 5-6 weeks later, and they come on TV and they're like, listen, Cactus Jack, he was hurt, but he went home. But his wife was really worried about his mental health. He's depressed. He's not acting like himself. So they took him to a mental health facility, and then he disappeared. What? I'm not the smartest egg in the nest. Maybe the most bulbous, but definitely not the smartest. There are so many hoops that one would have to jump through to even get out of their room. And you're telling me that this 350 pound, 6'4" giant Sasquatch looking dude just disappeared? That's negligence. I hope Colette Foley sued their asses. Just got all sorts of money. His loved ones, they call his employer. One of your independent contractors, my husband, has disappeared. And his employer, because they are only interested in him for that sweet, sweet moolah, they don't hire a private investigating team, or they don't get the authorities involved. Oh no. They find a reporter named Catherine White, and she's going to get to the bottom of this. But it's going to all be on camera because we have to air it on television. Because, again, the viewer is more important than this guy who's clearly going through some shit, right? Catherine White's getting dragged into this. She wasn't a WCW commentator or anything. Like Tony Schiavone shouldn't be going out and doing this stuff because, like, he's hosting every show at the time, literally. You don't want Jesse Ventura out there because he's going to turn the whole thing into an investigation on the Illuminati and who's really living underneath Lake Minnetonka, all that stuff. Larry Zbyszko is just gonna complain about how suffrage is putting back America like 100 years. You could have given it to Chris Cruz. He wasn't doing anything. He's just sitting in the control center, waiting for somebody to go, hey, Chris, talk about the pay-per-view for 2 minutes. And Chris is like, yes, sir. And listen, Chris Cruz is a total narc, too. He would have loved it. He would have loved to have, done something to, shine the light on some of the unhoused of America and, get them in trouble. He's a tattletale. He would have loved that. Catherine White goes to the facility and she's like, I'm going to walk around on the lawn and see what I can find. And she finds a guy that talks like Jack Nicholson over at the basketball court. Just get it, Jack? She talks to a guy on a bench and he's doing like a Rain Man thing. And it's the scuttlebutt at the time was that they had hired, quote, Hollywood scriptwriters to put together these vignettes. And everyone was aghast, because how dare you bring scriptwriters into wrestling? And now, every fucking promo looks like the Fast and the Furious. Clearly, that was the evolution of the industry. But there's a reason why these specific scriptwriters were out of work. Like, it felt like these were the old men that were smoking cigars in the basement, writing episodes of, like, California Dreams. And they get the call, hey, you guys want to do wrestling? And they go, like, Gorgeous George? And they go, yeah, there's a cactus wrestler, and he's going to go missing. And then you guys need to come up with a whole thing for it. And they're like, great. And then they scoot over the typewriter, and they get to work. A mental health facility is a total bust because, searching the 100 feet right in front of the facility when this guy's gone missing, surprisingly, he didn't just hang around there. Could you imagine if she just would have found him, like, out in the front yard of the facility? And WCW spent all this money on hiring a reporter, and he revealed that the mental health facility is just, like, really lazy and they can't keep track of these people. And he's just out there, like, playing yo-yo or whatever. The next week, they go to the Foley house. This is another point Nick complained about it in his book. They hire an actress to be Colette Foley. They hire a kid to be Dewey because they thought Colette was too hot to be with Mick and Dewey was too cute. Has anybody seen Mick Foley, like, in his younger years? Like, there's a reason why he bagged a model. Like, he was hot. He was a hot dude. He was a fox. This reporter shows up to the Foley house and she's like, hey, are you traumatized? And his wife's like, yes, I am. And they make jokes about, like, Dewey wrestling a cat or whatever. Just do headlocks. She's, like, policing how the kid works. Like fucking Blackjack Lanza sitting there like, hey, no falsies, 8 minutes, go out there. Colette is, what she's describing he's going through is not amnesia. Because they keep using the word amnesia. That was the hot thing on TV that year. It's amnesia, amnesia, amnesia. But what she's describing, and by the way, they wouldn't have sent him home from the hospital if he was this bad off for amnesia. They would have, like, had people with him, not just been like, okay, you're good. Yeah, you don't know who you are, but fuck you. They wouldn't have done that. But she's describing dissociative identity disorder when she's talking about him. Because she's like, sometimes he's Mick and sometimes he's a fucking sailor. It's did. That's what it is. We weren't smart in the 90s. We were dumb people who had like the names of 4 diseases and the names of 4 mental illnesses. We didn't know what concussions were. We were just dumb cavemen. Ooga booga, ooga booga. Week after that, there was some kid that was like, hey, I saw Mick Foley on the streets of Cleveland, because everybody keeps mentioning Cleveland, and I guess Dewey's middle name was Cleveland, and so she's like, let me go to Cleveland. And she goes to like the most dangerous part of Cleveland, the Skid Row, she calls it. And there's like a guy that walks by the camera. If you couldn't tell that these are unhoused people, a guy just straight up goes, man, I'm slumming. Because, you know, that's what they say around cameras when they're walking the streets. They just go, man, I'm slumming. And then there's like a drunk guy sitting on the ground, and he's like, you know, got a bag with a bottle of wine. Oh, hey, lady, I'll tell you where he is. He looks just like the Planet of the Bass guy, you know, women are my favorite guy, yada, yada. That guy, he looks just like him. She's like, yeah, I'll give you $50. He's like, fuck you, lady. You don't give us $50. We'll mug you. And then then another guy mugged her, and that's the end of the vignette. So she goes back the next week. But the drunk guy that was on the ground actually takes her to Cactus Jack. He's apparently like this like crusader for good amongst the unhoused. And like he found the mugger and like got her bag back. It's great. You know, if he's happy, you know, just let him be. Yeah, his family misses him. Maybe you approach that slowly, but like he's not hurting anybody. He's giving gifts to kids, and he's giving women their purses back. That's a good guy in my book. Jack is like the leader of this group of unhoused folks, and he believes himself to be a retired sailor, and he tells all these stories from the sea, and he's clean shaven, but much like everybody else in these vignettes, for some reason, he's covered in motor oil. Just covered in Castrol GTX. Mick's dating a new lady. He's dating outside of his marriage. He found a lady on the streets named Bang Bang. This is the part where it kind of reminded me of Weapons, in that she like has like control over him, and then she's like, don't ask him questions, he's my vessel. Didn't say vessel, I made up that part. She just gives up. She's like, there's Jack. There he is. Not living in a house anymore. He's in Cleveland. See you next week. She goes back the next week, and now she has Dustin Rhodes with her. Those of you that didn't grow up watching WCW, Dustin Rhodes and Cactus Jack weren't ever really affiliated on screen. Like, never. Like, they weren't, like, buddy. Even after Cactus Jack turned babyface, it's not like they were tag partners or anything. Frickin' Dustin was like, I'll come out here to the streets of Cleveland to get Cactus Jack with you. Dustin, you know, he's not trying to be subtle. Look at him. He's got like a 2-foot tall cowboy hat looking like Turd Ferguson. He's dressed like if somebody paused the opening credits of Saved by the Bell. I love Dustin, but like, dude, this is not how you dress to go get your friend back that's dealing with dissociative identity disorder on the streets of Cleveland. It's a bad idea, you know? Jack's like, hey man, you're a country singer, because, you know, the hat. And Dustin's like, yeah man, I like singing. And like they start like almost, like he starts like feeding into it. And it's like, I kind of wish they would have gone down that road where like Jack just kept flattering all the baby faces and then joining them on the streets of Cleveland to like do all of these other flights of fancy that they had never thought they could do before, like Dustin playing like Merle Haggard songs, and I don't know, Johnny B. Bad being like a blackjack dealer. I don't know. That's what I wish they would have done. But instead, Dustin's like, oh, I gotta come out here and like get you back with your family. So he goes bang bang, and Jack's like, fuck. Bang bang, the lady who's like manipulating Jack or whatever, she's like, hey guys, do a thing. All the other unhoused people start like running all over the place, and somebody steals Dustin Rhodes' hat, because of course they're like, oh, this costs money. The 6th and final Lost in Cleveland vignette following week, Catherine White's like, I'm going to traumatize this family even more. So she brings Colette and Dewey to the streets of Cleveland. Why the fuck are you dragging a child in the middle of the night through Skid Row? Asshole move. Catherine White should have been arrested. She's like, oh, maybe it'll like trigger his brain and he'll come back home. But it's like, no, it's just gonna scar this kid for life. And then he's gonna grow up and write 205 Live. Turns out our drunk friend, the guy with the wine, he took the money. He's clean now. Jack gave him some money and he's like, hey man, go get yourself some nice clothes and go get a job. Somehow in like a week and a half, this dude, whose name is Wendell, by the way, we find out, he got a job, got housing, and is a week and a half free of alcohol, which is great. I don't know if that's how it works. I don't know if your fellow buddy in the street could be like, here's $20, and then you just turn around your life. But hey, if it worked for Wendell, I'm happy for him. Wendell brings him to Jack, and he's fixing a bike, and Catherine's like, hey, it's your wife and your kid. And Mick's like, I don't know these people, probably because they're actors. This kid, WCW should have paid for his fucking therapy bills. All because they traumatize this family because they want this guy who has brain damage, has real bad brain damage, and is dealing from shit from the brain damage. They want him to go get more brain damage in the name of capitalism, in the name of making money. They traumatize this man's family. They traumatize the Foleys. Like in canon, that's what happened. Like WCW comes out looking horrible in this whole thing. They want this man to keep falling down on purpose for a living. After it's clear he shouldn't be doing that anymore. Like, that's the moral of the story. If this story would have had a happy ending, it would have been Mick Foley gets a job as like a graphic designer. Or, a newspaper writer. Not Mick Foley goes back to the ring. So now we're well into July. They stopped doing the vignettes. They're costing a lot of money and they're not doing well in the ratings. And WCW is very sensitive about that. But Harley Race starts carrying around a bag of marbles. Get it? Cactus Jack lost his marbles. Wrestling. It's subtle. Tony Schiavone's like, hey man, we got this present for you at headquarters at CNN Center. And instead of giving it to him like before the show, like you do with most fan mail, Tony's like, hey, I'm going to interrupt your promo. Here you go. Here's a gift. And it's a cacti. It's a little cacti, a little potted cacti. And Harley Race, and I understand this. I totally get this. Harley's like, I don't want to take care of a plant. I don't have time in my life. I manage the world champion. I manage the Colossal Kongs. I don't have time to water this fucking thing. I get that. I don't want to. If somebody gave me a plant, I'd be like, fuck you. Get away from me. I don't have time in my life to keep this thing alive. That's a terrible gift. It'd be like if somebody was like, hey, Merry Christmas. Here's my child. That's your child. That's your thorny child. Because it's a cactus, Cactus Jack. Again, wrestling. It's subtle. The next week, he gets an even bigger cacti with an ominous note that somebody's coming back to get his revenge. And Harley, again, is just pissed off because now he's got two cacti. He doesn't want to keep the little one alive. Now he's got a big one he's got to take care of. Fuck. He doesn't want to pay a neighbor to come into his house, water the cactus. That's bullshit, man. And then at the beginning of August, Harley debuts a new find, Yoshi Kwan, who is fucking Chris Champion, not at all Asian, despite how they did his eyeshadow or his mascara or whatever. But he does this, and he's like, I'm a karate guy. Ugh. He's like the most dangerous martial artist, and Harley's like, here, you carry Cactus Jack's literal fucking marbles. So Jack returns at the Clash of the Champions in the middle of August, lays out Vader, completely blows off the amnesia or the did, whatever you want to call it, the the brain damage. He's like, oh no, I wasn't actually. None of that stuff really happened. What happened was I was mad because all the enhancement guys are scared of Vader now instead of me. And I'm jealous. And I'm like, that's a cool angle to take. It's just a shame we did like 3 months of this other shit. The guy that everybody used to be scared of got the shit kicked out of him by this other guy, and now that guy's the guy everybody's scared of. And Mick's like, shit, what am I gonna do? That's probably the most realistic part of the storyline, is that Mick blew off that thing. Anybody who's ever crashed out publicly, your instant reaction's gonna be, oh, I didn't do that. And just like walk past it. Like you're as a human being, if you have a big public crash out, like, you know, going to live as a sailor on the streets of Cleveland for weeks and weeks on end, if they put it on national TV, they exploit your trauma for ratings, and they give your children all this other shit to deal with now, you're not going to be like, oh yeah, I was real messed up, man. You know, I'm trying to get better. No, you're going to be like, that never happened. No, that was another Cactus Jack. What are you talking about? I just wanted everybody to be scared of me. That's the angle you take. So that is genuinely the one part of this. I'm like, I feel that. The Fall Brawl comes around in September. Mick wins the marbles back. He has his marbles. He has his literal fucking marbles. That's how we deal with mental health in wrestling. We put marbles on the line. We handle mental health a little bit better in 2025. A little bit. Jack, every week on TV, cuts another promo where he's like, I didn't really have brain damage or anything. That's all just a ploy. Then they go back to the commentators, and the commentators are like, man, remember when Cactus Jack had amnesia and thought he was a sailor? That shit was silly. We get to Halloween Havoc, the big blow-off. Vader, Cactus Jack, spin the wheel, make the deal. Any one of like 15 gimmick matches. The main event of the pay-per-view. We've been building to it since April, really since January. Cactus Jack is going to get his revenge on this big, evil, mean monster. And he's going to get to do it in any one of these various brutal gimmick matches, right? And they're even like, we can't sanction this. It's not a world title match because it's going to be brutal. So the stage is set for Cactus Jack to get his big win and become triumphant main event babyface, right? And wouldn't you know it, Vader beats his ass and wins. And that's how the story ends.